ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to cover the Tepalian army. I know you guys originally voted for this to happen, but I also was at the time trying to finish up my war breakdown series of the Grosgorian War. But since it has been finished, we're going to go ahead and tour the Tepalian army. The Tepalian army itself consists of 57 soldiers and 2 vehicles as of now. We are first going to cover the soldiers and positions of the army, and then we'll move on to the vehicles. So without further ado, let us move on with the video. Okay, so here we have the soldiers of the Tepalian army and their poses. I'm going to go ahead and do a panorama of their poses so you can see what they have. And now we're going to break them down into what they have. So this guy is representing a guard. This is a guard slash recruit. The next one is a heavy machine gunner with a 50 cal machine gun, used for mostly defensive purposes, like at bases or any military headquarters. Next, we have a bolt action rifleman for the assault. We have a sniper with also a bolt action rifle feature. Oops. Next, we have the first version of a light machine gunner for the assault. And then we have a second version of an assault machine gunner on the field. 2 versions of SMG or submachine guns. The first one has like a MP40 or a Tech 9-ish gun. Second one has like a French submachine gun. I don't know what the name of it is, but that's what the type of gun he has. That's the second version of a submachine gun. Here we have a commanding officer with a pistol, and I can sometimes use him as a national leader, but right now I'm just going to be using him as a general because he has that particular style with the pistol in his hand. A semi-automatic rifleman standing up. 3 variants of chargers. One with the elongated rifle. The second one is advancing on the field, and another one that is advancing on the field as well. Then we have a mortarman slash artillery personnel, an ammo carrier, and an engineer slash mechanic. Now let's move on to the vehicles. Okay, so the Tepalian army doesn't have much vehicles. It only has 1 tank and 1 plane. The tank is a Scorpion model tank. It has a 50 cal machine gunner on the top and launches miniature shells and artillery, but it's enough to take out like tanks. And they have anti-tank and regular rounds on the tank to be used. The plane is only like 1 plane, and technically 1 person can only fit in there since it's pretty small. But yep, these are the vehicles of the Tepalian army. Now I'm hoping to get more like small tan versions of these for the Tepalians, because they do need some vehicles, but this is the only vehicles that they have at the moment. Now let's move on to the geography. But first, let's discuss about what have they been doing lately. What is Tepal doing currently? Well, as of now, the nation of Tepal is remaining isolated and neutral from wars and conflicts. Their main goal is to trade and continue trading with peaceful intentions, no military violence or weapon violence. Unless there is a war that catches their attention, that makes them be involved, but until then, there isn't one, and therefore they're remaining peaceful and neutral. Now let's move on to the geography. Okay, guys, so this is my renewed map of the my Ornamental universe slash world, and since we're talking about Tepal, let's zoom in into the country of Tenyo. So over here, this is where most of the nations that I have recently added go to, and Tepal is this country right here. Tepal was founded on May 15th of 2025 last year. But the years before, Marland had to share a piece of its territory with the newest country at the time, which was Mongolia. But since Tepal was discovered a couple months later, Marland was also willing to give up a small portion of its territory. Now, at first, the Tepalians were offered a small amount of territory because at the time they had a small population. And until their population had grown bigger, then they would grant them more territory. So now they have more territory because their population grew, and their population, like I mentioned before, is 57 in total, but it could grow even bigger and bigger, and we'll see about that in the near future. But this is the map of Tepal, and Tepal is surrounded by the following nations: Mongolia, Budapest. Now, there is another nation now. Budapest is split in half, and that nation is called Afghanistan. I need to find my other map, but this is the only map I grabbed in hurriedly. So basically, they're surrounded by Budapest and Afghanistan, Mados, and of course Malat, which is the big provider of their country. Now, they are the smallest army ever, and like I said, they've been mostly neutral and isolated from other conflicts because they don't have a big, powerful force, and they mostly intend on trading with nations peacefully without using any violence of any sort, unless it has to do with their livelihood or their culture or something happens to them. Then they will have to fight for it. But other than that, they're peaceful. Now let's move on to the announcements.